The world is filled with some incredible natural beauty. Thankfully, many areas around the world have set a precedent to preserve these iconic and incredible natural wonders. The United States opened up the world's first national park with Yellowstone in 1972, then later setting up a governing service to take care of the ever-growing list of national parks in 1916 with the creation of the National Park Service. Not only has the National Park Service been an amazing success for over a century, its success inspired nations around the world to preserve its natural landscapes as well. Today I will be going into detail on my top 10 favorite national parks, so join me as we go over some of the best national parks from around the world. Before we go into deep dive into my top 10 national parks, there are a few parks that deserve an honorable mention. Rocky Mountain National Park is an amazing national park a few hours northwest of Denver. While I visited the park in 2013, I barely scratched the surface since I was on a charter bus with the Carolina Band, only getting to spend a few hours inside the park. We traveled up to Bear Lake. While beautiful, this was in March and as a result frozen over. This did make for a picturesque backdrop for our short visit. However, most of the park was inaccessible. I really do need to give this park another chance sometime to see what this park truly has to offer. Barely missing the top 10 is the national park I personally have not understood the passion for, Grand Teton. Don't get me wrong, this is a gorgeous park and having the towering Tetons dominating the skyline is a sight to behold. I just personally don't see how some people can name this park their #1 national park of all time. Regardless, Grand Teton's lakes and surrounding mountains are stunning. One thing I do think would really elevate this park for me is if I ever had the chance to go backpacking deep into the Tetons. That backcountry does truly look incredible and something I do hope to experience one day. Starting off the top 10 is a lesser known park, Lassen Volcanic National Park. Only hosting 500,000 guests per year, Lassen is off the beaten path for sure, so you can always expect light crowds at this gorgeous national park. Lassen is the southernmost volcano in the Cascade Range, just south of its more famous neighbor, Mount Shasta. While not as tall as Shasta, Lassen is no slouch, standing at 10,457 feet. What truly makes Lassen special is the abundant volcanic activity that takes place inside the park. Lassen itself erupted only a little over 100 years ago in 1915, which in geological terms might as well have been yesterday. As a result, you can find remnants of this eruption around the park. As Lassen is an active volcano, you can easily find tons of geothermal activity throughout the park, with mud pits just next to the road, and my personal favorite hike in the national park, Bumpass Hell. Bumpass Hell is a large geothermal valley filled with mud pots and fumaroles. While not as vast as the first national park, I always felt that Lassen is a mini Yellowstone. Lassen Volcanic National Park is truly worth going off the beaten path for anyone exploring California's abundant national parks. Heading to the desert, another lesser known park, in northeast Arizona you find Petrified Forest National Park. Petrified Forest is filled with vast emptiness that is part of the beauty of this park. There are tons of stunning overlooks where you can spend hours looking at all the different intricacies and colors of the desert. As implied, what the park is truly known for is the vast amount of petrified wood found inside the park. I have seen petrified wood pieces at various points of my life, but what was so incredible to see is just how massive some of these pieces could get. Seeing massive fallen over tree trunks as petrified wood was absolutely spectacular. Petrified Forest National Park may be a smaller and lesser known national park, but it is well worth the trip for anyone traveling on Interstate 40 in northern Arizona. Staying in the desert and heading a little west, you find Joshua Tree National Park. While not the most flashy of national parks, Joshua Tree really has some special areas. Filled with tons of monstrous boulders, Joshua Tree is an incredible hotspot for rock climbers. Where Joshua Tree really shines was on the Lost Horse Mine Trail. While a pretty moderate hike overall, you can hike to an abandoned mine. While I was expecting the mine to be the highlight of the hike, hiking along the ridge leading up to the mine showed me something I have never seen before. For myself, growing up on the East Coast in South Carolina, pretty much no matter where you went, due to the higher population density, you can always find man-made structures. However, when you're on that ridge, you could possibly see for a dozen miles, maybe more, and for the first time in my life, I looked out into the vast landscape where you could not see a single man-made structure as far as the eye could see. This area with a red rock looked like you were on the surface of Mars. It's truly breathtaking. Moments like this is why I do think that Joshua Tree is an underrated park. I have barely scratched the surface of this massive park, where hopefully I will be able to return someday. Heading out of the desert and into a more lush environment, we head back to the western United States for Crater Lake. While a lot smaller than most national parks, this extinct volcanic caldera filled with the deepest lake in North America is a sight to behold. Filled with the bluest and clearest water I've ever seen, Crater Lake is truly spectacular. Surrounded by massive pine trees, you truly lose the scale of how massive and deep this lake is. You can easily spend the day driving around the lake taking in different viewpoints. However, where Crater Lake truly shines is as expected when you get down to the lake itself. Only accessible via a decently steep switchback filled hike, it really is worth descending 700 feet down to the lake below. If you're coming in the summer, make sure you pack your swimsuit, as jumping into this cold but incredibly clear lake is a must-do for anyone. Make sure you jump off one of the rocks into the crystal clear waters down below. With North America's deepest and one of the clearest lakes, you can easily see down well over 100 feet deep just right offshore. Crater Lake National Park is another amazing example of how spectacular the west coast of the United States really is. The United States is not the only country with incredible national parks. Next, we head to the tallest freestanding mountain on Earth, Mount Kilimanjaro. Mount Kilimanjaro is one of my favorite places on the planet. The stunning biomes and standing at the top at 19,341 feet is a memory I will hold on to forever. With that being said, why is Kilimanjaro only ranked number 6? While the mountain is stunning, I am ranking it as a national park. And while the primary reason to visit is to spend a week climbing to the top, for a national park, I do want some variety in activities. However, that being said, Mount Kilimanjaro is home to my favorite hike I've ever done. As I alluded to earlier, your week-long climb up to the mountain is filled with many different biomes. You start your hike in the rainforest with the sounds of caliper monkeys off in the distance. You climb higher and leave the vegetation behind until you're in the alpine with massive glaciers all around you as you stand at 19,000 feet in elevation. Tanzania is a gem of a country, filled with incredible landscapes as well as amazing wildlife, but more on that later. For number 5, there is no surprise it is ranked as high as it is, with it being one of the most visited national parks in the United States, the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is one of the few places I have been to in the world where pictures really do not do it justice. Even though you've seen thousands of pictures and videos of the canyon, there is nothing like seeing it in person. The one and only time I visited the canyon, I literally stared at it all day long. Watching the colors change by the hour throughout the day just gives the canyon this amazing feeling of wonder. It's so hard for your mind to fathom how massive this is. Like a few of the other national parks on this list, I've barely scratched the surface of this massive park. One of the biggest things on my bucket list is taking the Bright Angel Trail down to the Colorado River below. This multi-day hike shows you the canyon from every angle as you get further and further away from the canyon rim. I wouldn't be surprised if I was able to spend a lot more time in the canyon that Grand Canyon National Park would place a lot higher on this list. In my opinion, there are 2 reasons why a national park is considered great. Most parks have incredible landscapes where everywhere you look is picturesque. However, some are more special because of the incredible and abundant wildlife found inside the park. Nowhere is this more true than Masai Mara in Kenya, where I went on my first safari. Located in the Great African Plains, Masai Mara has beautiful landscape. However, the crown jewel is seeing all the incredible wildlife you only get to see either in a zoo back home or on National Geographic. Unlike when a national park's allure is the landscape, which will always be there, you have to go out into the vast plains to find what makes this place so special. There is a sense of discovery trekking into Masai Mara in search of elephants, lions, cheetah, and more. And there is nothing more rewarding than finding a massive elephant just around the trees. The biggest highlight I found was while finding 2 cheetah eating the fresh kill of a wildebeest. That is just something you're not going to find anywhere like a zoo. Preservation of these incredible animals is more important than ever to keep places like Masai Mara special. While I'm not returning to Masai Mara, this September I'm extremely excited to visit Serengeti National Park just south of Masai Mara and Ngorongoro Crater in Tanzania to find more of these incredible animals in the wild. Getting into the top 3, and all 3 of these national parks are truly some of the best places on the planet. Glacier National Park in northern Montana is one of the most beautifully striking places on Earth. It is incredibly vast, stretching all the way up to Canada, where despite having taken 2 big trips there is so much of the park I'm yet to explore. However, the areas of the park I have explored are some of the most stunning places I've ever seen. Before you start truly gaining in elevation, you come across the moderate hike to Avalanche Creek and Lake. Only lasting 5.5 miles, this trail gives vibrant views of the forest below thanks to being in lower elevation. Heading past Avalanche Creek, you climb all the way up the Going to the Sun Road, which between this road and Tioga Road in Yosemite are easily the most incredible and stunning drives I have and maybe ever will take in my life. Getting to the top of Logan Pass brings you to Hidden Lake Trail, which never fails to show off the park's spectacular beauty, along with the park's amazing wildlife. While not as abundant in wildlife as other parks on this list, every time I've gone to Glacier, and on this hike in particular, I will find mountain goats, some getting extremely close to the trail. While for the most part, a lot of the park's main areas are easy to access and can feel crowded as a result, I feel like the park truly shined once you got off the beaten path. One of my favorite hikes of all time was when we drove 3 hours to the other side of the park to Mini Glacier and took the stunning trail to Grinnell Glacier. Walking past these magnificent peaks and lakes to your final destination at Grinnell Glacier itself cements this as one of the most spectacular and magnificent hikes I've ever done. With a nice cherry on top of being able to actually stand on the glacier. Standing on and hearing the sounds of the glacier move is easily one of the top hiking moments of all time for me. Overall, Glacier National Park is outstanding and many people's favorite national park. I completely understand anyone who puts it at their number one. Number 2, which for me is neck and neck between Glacier, is the first ever national park, Yellowstone. While not as spectacular in scenery as others on this list, Yellowstone makes up for it with incredible and abundant geothermal activity making up 50% of the world's geysers, along with just an incredible and immersive wildlife. Yellowstone easily has the most abundant amount of wildlife I've ever seen in the United States, with tons of bison and, if you're lucky, finding grizzly bears or even wolves. While Yellowstone is not as picturesque as others, it still has incredible landscape. From the abundant amount of waterfalls, the largest high-altitude lake in North America, Yellowstone Lake, and the massively impressive Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. The world's first national park still has plenty of pristine beauty. However, what Yellowstone is truly known for is the abundant and impressive geothermal areas all around the park. As most know by now, thanks to the super volcano underneath the park, this brings the most active geothermal location on Earth, ranging from geysers of all sizes to even the tallest active geyser in the world, Steamboat. To beautiful hot springs bringing the most stunning colors, Yellowstone has such a wide variety. While most guests will come during the summer or fall months, I truly think Yellowstone shines in the winter. Most of the park is inaccessible to most vehicles. You can either rent a snowmobile or take an official guided tour into the park in buses designed to traverse the massive amounts of snow. From there, you experience a winter wonderland with next to nobody in the park with you. While in the summer, you can expect thousands of people crowding around Old Faithful, waiting to see the next eruption. When I was there in the winter of 2021, there was maybe 75 people waiting around to watch the world's most famous geyser. The lack of crowds also brings wildlife everywhere. Of course, you will not find bears as they're hibernating for the winter, but bison is plentiful, as well as the slight opportunity to see wolves goes up exponentially in the winter months. Yellowstone is truly an incredible place. While not as grand as some of the incredible landscapes found in the West, but is truly one of a kind and somewhere I get excited to go to anytime I am in Montana or the Wyoming area. Yosemite National Park has always been an incredibly special place to me. I first visited the park when I was little, and then after a long hiatus after moving away from the West Coast, I have now been to the park 13 times since 2015. Yosemite is home to my first major hike where on October 4th, 2015, me and Aaron summited Half Dome for the first time, cementing our love and passion for hiking and the outdoors. There is nothing like the first glimpse down the valley from tunnel view where the magnificent El Capitan and Bridal Veil Falls welcome you to my favorite place on Earth. In the spring, you will find some of the tallest and highest waterfalls on Earth. With the tallest waterfall in North America and one of the tallest in the world, Yosemite Falls towering over you from the valley floor. Yosemite Valley is magnificent, filled with some of the best hikes you can embark on. As spectacular as the valley is, Yosemite has tons of other locations that are just as spectacular, or in some cases, in my opinion, even more so. In the south end of the park is the massive sequoias of Mariposa Grove, literally some of the largest and most impressive trees on Earth. Just as I embellished over the Going to the Sun Road in Glacier, Tioga Road is equally as impressive of a drive. Containing my favorite area of the park where you climb from the 4,000 feet in the Yosemite Valley all the way up to nearly 10,000 feet at Tioga Pass. Yosemite's highest country is endlessly beautiful and filled with the grand views of lakes, meadows, and towering peaks above. From incredible views of Tenaya Lake to the vast and massive Tumalami Meadows, everything along Tioga Road is breathtaking. Some of the best hikes in the country start up along Tioga Road, with hikes to lakes deep in the Yosemite wilderness or going to Clouds Rest where you can tower over even the mighty Half Dome looking down into Yosemite Valley. Yosemite is somewhere that you need to see to believe, and they really should be at the top of everyone's bucket list if they have not made it to this magnificent park already. National parks show that people can come together and decide it's more important that we preserve these areas of the world than let humans run wild in developing man-made structures around it. You look at areas like Niagara Falls, which while incredible to look at, still make me wish that National Park Service had been developed earlier and we could visit Niagara Falls today with nothing but the natural beauty surrounding it. This is why John Muir fought so hard to convince people like Teddy Roosevelt that we need to preserve these natural wonders. Without the efforts of John Muir, Teddy Roosevelt, and the rest of the National Park Service, it would be guaranteed that the areas we love today would look incredibly different. Could you imagine a cheesecake factory right next to Old Faithful? Or a TGI Fridays right in Yosemite Valley? I don't know about you, but that's not a world I ever want to live in. So thank you to the National Park Service and the other park services around the world for preserving some of the best places on the planet. While I currently have only visited 13 national parks around the world, one of my biggest bucket list items is to make that number grow higher and higher. So if you enjoyed content like this, be sure to subscribe as I continue to explore more of this incredible planet.